The desperate Plath trading post on Station Gamma 7 buzzed with activity as merchants from across the galaxy hawked their wares. Smoke from cooking fires mixed with the metallic tang of recycled air, creating a haze that made everything look dreamlike. Among the crowd, a small figure stood on a makeshift platform, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Please, my mom just needs work." The alien boy's voice cracked with desperation. His blue-tinted skin gleamed with sweat, and his large golden eyes searched the passing faces for any sign of compassion. "She can fix anything. Electronics, engines, life support systems." The boy, no more than 10 years old by human standards, wore clothes that had seen better days. His species, the Centauri, were known for their technical expertise, but the war had left many of them refugees. His mother sat nearby, her head bowed in shame, trying to become invisible. Captain Jake Morrison paused mid-stride, his weathered face showing the lines of someone who had seen too much conflict. The retired Earth Defense Force officer had come to the station for supplies, not to get involved in alien family drama. But something about the boy's determination reminded him of his own son, lost in the war that had scattered the Centauri across the galaxy. "What kind of work?" Jake asked, his voice cutting through the ambient noise. The boy's eyes lit up like stars. "Anything. Mom used to work on the capital ships before the evacuation. She can repair quantum drives, calibrate sensor arrays, even work on AI systems." His words tumbled out in a rush, hope evident in every syllable. The mother, Kira, looked up with surprise. Her people had been fleeing for months, rejected at every port, treated like unwanted cargo. Humans had been neutral in the war, but neutrality often meant indifference. "I run a small freight operation," Jake said slowly, studying the woman. "My chief engineer just quit. Position's yours if you want it." Other aliens in the crowd stopped their conversations, watching this unprecedented moment. Humans rarely offered employment to refugees, especially not to Centauri, whose advanced technology made other species nervous. "What's the catch?" Kira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake shrugged. "No catch. You work, you get paid. Simple as that." The boy grabbed his mother's hand, bouncing with excitement. "Mom, this is it. This is our chance." Kira stood slowly, her dignity returning with each passing second. "What ship?" "The Wanderer. She's old, but she's reliable. Just like her crew." As they walked toward the docking bay, other refugees watched with a mixture of hope and envy. Perhaps this human was different. Perhaps not all doors were closed to them. The boy skipped ahead, his earlier desperation replaced by pure joy. Behind them, the trading post continued its eternal dance of commerce. But for one small family, everything had changed in an instant. Proving worth, the Wanderer's engine room hummed with barely contained energy, a symphony of mechanical precision that spoke to Kira's engineer soul. She ran her hands along the quantum drive housing, feeling the vibrations that would tell her everything she needed to know about the ship's condition. "She's beautiful," Kira whispered, her technical expertise overriding her usual caution. Jake watched from the doorway as the Centauri woman examined his ship with the reverence of a true engineer. Her son, who had introduced himself as Nico, sat cross-legged nearby, asking questions about every system with the curiosity of youth. The previous engineer said she was beyond repair, Jake mentioned casually. Kira's golden eyes flashed with what might have been anger. "This drive has at least 50 years of life left in it. The resonance frequency is off by 0.03%. Nothing a proper calibration can't fix." Within hours, Kira had identified 17 different issues that the previous engineer had either missed or ignored. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, adjusting components that hadn't been properly maintained in years. "Mom's the best engineer in the fleet," Nico declared proudly. She taught me how to read energy signatures when I was 6. The boy wasn't exaggerating. As Kira worked, she explained each step to her son, who absorbed the information like a sponge. Jake found himself learning more about his own ship in one afternoon than he had in the previous year. "Captain Morrison," Kira said during a brief break, "may I ask why you helped us?" Jake was quiet for a moment, watching Nico trace circuit patterns with his finger. "I had a son once, about his age. The war took him." The weight of that simple statement settled over the engine room like a heavy blanket. Kira understood loss. Every Centauri did. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "Don't be sorry. Just keep my ship running." That evening, as the Wanderer prepared for departure, other crew members began to take notice. Rodriguez, the weapons specialist, was initially skeptical of their new engineer. But when Kira boosted the targeting computer's efficiency by 15%, his attitude changed quickly. "How did you do that?" he asked, staring at readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Centauri technology integrates differently with human systems," Kira explained patiently. "We see patterns where others see chaos." Even the ship's eye, a cranky old system named Vera, seemed to respond better to Kira's touch. The lights grew brighter, the artificial gravity stabilized, and the recycled air started to smell less like machinery and more like home. "Mom's magic," Nico explained to anyone who would listen. "She talks to machines and they listen. But it wasn't magic. It was knowledge, skill, and the desperate determination of a mother who had finally found a place where her talents were valued." As the Wanderer jumped to hyperspace, bound for the outer rim with a cargo of medical supplies, Kira allowed herself to hope. Perhaps they had found more than work. Perhaps they had found a future. The test of crisis 3 weeks into their journey, disaster struck without warning. The Wanderer shuddered violently as they dropped out of hyperspace, emergency klaxons wailing throughout the ship. Jake rushed to the bridge while Kira raced too. The engine room, Nico closed behind her. "What's our status?" Jake demanded, gripping his captain's chair as the ship bucked like an angry animal. "Quantum drive is fluctuating wildly," reported Lieutenant Walsh from the navigation station. "We're losing containment in the primary core." In the engine room, Kira's hands flew over the control panels, her face pale but determined. The quantum drive's protective housing glowed ominously, indicating a cascade failure that could tear the ship apart. "Mom, what's happening?" Nico asked, his young voice tight with fear. "The drive is overloading," Kira explained, her voice steady despite the crisis. "Someone sabotaged the resonance dampeners. We have maybe 10 minutes before catastrophic failure." Jake's voice crackled over the intercom. "Can you fix it?" Kira stared at the readings, her mind racing through possibilities. A traditional repair would take hours they didn't have. But there was another way, a dangerous technique that required perfect timing and absolutely no margin for error. "I need everyone out of the engine room," she commanded. "This is going to be dangerous." "I'm not leaving you, Mom," Nico declared, crossing his arms stubbornly. "You have to. This requires precision, and I can't worry about you getting hurt." Jake appeared. In the doorway, his expression grim. "What do you need?" "Trust," Kira said simply. And about 8 minutes of silence. As the crew evacuated the engine room, Kira began the most delicate procedure of her career. She manually adjusted the quantum field harmonics using her species' natural ability to perceive energy patterns. Her hands moved in a complex dance, fine-tuning systems that human engineers would need computers to control. The ship groaned and shuddered, but gradually the violent shaking began to subside. The angry red glow of the quantum drive faded to its normal blue-white luminescence. "Status report," Jake called over the intercom. "Drive stable," Kira replied, wiping sweat from her brow. We're good to go." The relief in Jake's voice was evident. "Outstanding work. But who sabotaged our systems?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Nico, who had been monitoring the ship's internal sensors, spoke up quietly. "It was Rodriguez. He's been transmitting our position to someone." The revelation hit the crew like a physical blow. Rodriguez, the weapons specialist who had seemed to accept Kira, had been working against them all along. When confronted, he admitted to being paid by Zentari slavers who wanted to capture refugees for the illegal labor markets. "I needed the money," he said defensively. "Besides, they're just aliens." Jake's face darkened with anger. "They're my crew." Rodriguez was confined to quarters, and the ship continued its journey. But the incident had changed something fundamental. Kira and Nico were no longer just employees or passengers. They were family. "You saved us all," Jake told Kira later. "That technique you used, I've never seen anything like it. It's an old Zentari method," she explained. "We call it listening to the machine's heart. My people have been doing it for generations." As the Wanderer resumed course, the crew realized they had witnessed something special. Not just technical expertise, but courage under pressure and loyalty in the face of betrayal. Building bonds, the cargo run to the mining colony of Kepler 442b, should have been routine. But nothing about the Wanderer's missions had been routine since Kira and Nico joined the crew. The mining colony was struggling with equipment failures that had shut down production for weeks. "They're desperate," Jake explained to his crew as they approached the planet. "The equipment is breaking down faster than they can repair it." Kira studied the technical specifications sent by the colony administrators. The mining equipment was old, poorly maintained, and operating far beyond its designed parameters. But she saw something else in the data patterns that the human engineers had missed. "This isn't random failure," she told Jake. "The breakdowns are following a specific sequence. Someone is systematically sabotaging the equipment." The mining colony's administrator, a gruff man named Peterson, greeted them with barely concealed skepticism. "You brought an alien to fix our equipment?" "I brought the best engineer in the sector," Jake replied firmly. "Species is irrelevant." Kira ignored the slight and focused on the massive mining platforms that dotted the landscape. The equipment was indeed failing, but as she examined the machinery, she began to understand the pattern. Someone with intimate knowledge of the systems was causing the failures. "Miko," she called to her son, who was helping her carry diagnostic equipment. "What do you see when you look at these machines?" The boy closed his eyes and placed his hands on the nearest mining platform. His species' natural ability to sense energy patterns was still developing, but he was learning fast. "They're confused," he said slowly, "like they're receiving two sets of instructions." Kiara smiled proudly. "Exactly. Someone is using a secondary control system to override the primary operations." Working together, mother and son traced the sabotage to its source. A rival mining corporation had been using hidden transmitters to disrupt operations, hoping to drive the colony into bankruptcy so they could acquire the mineral rights cheaply. "How did you figure this out so quickly?" Peterson asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by amazement. "We see patterns differently," Kira explained. "Zentari children are taught to listen to machines from an early age. We understand that technology has its own language." As word spread through the colony about the alien engineer who had saved their livelihood, attitudes began to change. The miners, initially suspicious of outsiders, began to see Kira and Nico as saviors rather than threats. "My daughter wants to be an engineer," one miner told Kira. "Could you teach her some of your techniques?" Soon, Kira found herself surrounded by eager students, both human and alien. She taught them the basics of energy pattern recognition, showing them how to listen to the subtle rhythms that machines create. Every system has a heartbeat, she explained. Learn to hear it, and you'll never be surprised by a failure again. Jake watched from a distance as his engineer built bridges between species through shared knowledge. The boy who had once begged for work for his mother was now teaching human children about quantum mechanics, his enthusiasm infectious. You've got something special there, Peterson told Jake. I've never seen anything like it. I know, Jake replied. They're teaching. U.S. as much as we're teaching them. As the Wanderer prepared to leave the colony, the miners presented Kira with a gift, a toolkit crafted from the rare metals they had mined, each tool perfectly balanced and inscribed with symbols of respect. This is for you, Peterson said. From all of us. Thank you for saving our home. Kira accepted the gift with tears in her eyes. For the first time since the war, she felt truly valued. A new beginning 6 months after that first encounter at the trading post, the Wanderer had become something unprecedented, a truly integrated crew where species boundaries meant nothing. Kira had not only proven her worth as an engineer, but had revolutionized how the ship operated. Captain's log, supplemental. Jake spoke into his personal recorder. The modifications Kira has made to our systems have increased efficiency by 40%. More importantly, she's shown us that cooperation between species isn't just possible, it's profitable. The ship's reputation had spread throughout the sector. Other vessels sought out the Wanderer for complex repairs, knowing that Kira's unique abilities could solve problems that stumped conventional engineers. Nico had become the ship's unofficial ambassador, his cheerful personality and growing technical skills making him popular with crews from a dozen different species. Mom, look at this, Nico said excitedly, showing Kira a holographic display he had created. I've been mapping the energy signatures of different ship types. Each species builds their technology with distinct patterns. Kira studied her son's work with pride. At 11 years old, he was already showing insights that would impress senior engineers. This is excellent work, she told him. What are you planning to do with this data? I want to create a universal diagnostic system, Nico explained. Something that can read any ship's systems, regardless of who built them. Jake, who had been listening from the doorway, whistled appreciatively. That would be worth a fortune. The Intergalactic Engineering Guild would pay millions for technology like that. We're not selling it, Kira said firmly. We're sharing it. Knowledge should benefit everyone. This attitude had become characteristic of the Wanderer's crew. They shared their discoveries freely, building goodwill throughout the galaxy. Other refugee families began seeking them out, hoping to find the same opportunities that Kira and Nico had discovered. We can't take everyone, Jake warned as requests for passage mounted. The ship has limits. Then we'll find them other opportunities, Kira replied. We'll be their advocates, help them find crews that need their skills. The Wanderer became a traveling employment agency, matching skilled refugees with crews that needed their expertise. Kira's reputation opened doors that had been closed to her people, and she used that influence to help others. You know what you've done, don't you? Jake asked her one evening as they watched the stars stream past at warp speed. You've started something bigger than just one ship. I've shown them that we're not just refugees, Kira replied. We're resources. We have skills, knowledge, and perspectives that can benefit everyone. The transformation was evident in Nico as well. The desperate boy who had begged for work for his mother had become a confident young engineer, proud of his heritage and excited about the future. He spoke fluent Standard now, but he also taught others his native language, sharing his culture with anyone interested in learning. Mom, I've been thinking, Nico said one day as they worked together on a particularly complex repair. When I'm older, I want to start a school, a place where young engineers from all species can learn together. Kira smiled at her son's ambition. That's a wonderful dream. What would you teach them? Everything, Nico replied enthusiastically. Human precision, Centauri pattern recognition, Valani crystalline engineering, all of it. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone shared their knowledge. As the Wanderer continued its journey through the stars, carrying both cargo and hope, Kira reflected on how much had changed since that desperate day at the trading post. One human's simple act of kindness had not only saved her family, but had sparked a movement that was changing how species interacted throughout the galaxy. "My mom just needs work," she whispered, remembering her son's original plea. Now, she was creating work for others, building bridges between worlds, and proving that the best solutions often came from the most unexpected places. The stars held infinite possibilities, and for the first time in years, Kira believed they could achieve them all.